Okay. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is the February monthly meeting of the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association. As you should have just seen an announcement on your screen, this meeting will be recorded. It is hosted on YouTube and can be found on our website, www.jeffreyspoint.org. You are not required to be either seen or heard on the video. You are welcome to submit questions through the chat, change your name as it appears, and keep your camera off at all times. That is your option. Although we certainly do welcome you to be seen so that you can wave at neighbors. And we also love children. So you're welcome to bring the tiny humans. My name is Margaret Farmer, and I'm co-chair of the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association. Susan?
Hi, I'm Susan Fong. I'm the vice chair. Josh?
I'm Josh Schmidt. I am the secretary and the host of today's chat. So,
okay. Before we get going, I'd just like to ask, there is someone on the phone with the last four digits 1483. Could we ask you to please unmute yourself and identify yourself so that we can keep an accurate attendance? Again, the last four digits are 1483.
yeah, I've asked a few times to unmute, but
okay, then we'll move on. I do want to recognize, I see that we have Gabriela Ramirez from Counselor Gigi's office here. Does anybody else see any other Gloria Bell Rivas from Rep Modero's office is here? Does anybody else see anybody elected officials or? Okay, I don't see any others, but that does not mean that they're not here. I will move forward on. We do have a slightly packed agenda tonight, so I'm going to move forward to the announcements. As always, we appreciate you joining us this evening. This Wednesday, February 15th, is Cocoa with a Counselor. Boston City Councilor at Large, Ruth Z. Lejeune, I think I said that correctly, will be at Cafe Interim on the Lewis Mall from 9 to 10 a.m. This is a free event, and all are welcome to attend and ask questions of our counselor. She has attended our JPNA meetings in the past, but we certainly encourage you to take this opportunity to meet her in person and to express some of your concerns or ask questions. This Saturday, February 18th at 1 p.m., Eastie Farm is hosting a free bilingual tour of Belle Isle Marsh. If you're interested in learning more about this historic marshland, which is accessible by public transportation at the Suffolk Downs T Station, we highly encourage you to go. There's no registration necessary. A quick reminder that Carmela's Italian Market is open while construction is underway on Everett Street. They are a local family-owned business that's been open for a number of years. Always a great place to find your Italian goodies. Also, the Boston Parks Winter Fitness Series is going on now. Fitness classes include Zumba, Afrobeat, yoga, and many more. Some classes are online and some are in person, and all classes are free. You can find these online at boston.gov/fitness. Just a quick reminder that the JPNA does take our direction from the community, and some of the feedback we've received from the community that more people would like to speak at JPNA meetings. We're starting a pilot at our planning and zoning meetings, which we started last month and seemed to be successful. So we're going to continue for a few more months to see how it goes. This is a change where we give all attendees the chance to speak out loud, not just limiting it to abutters. We will go into more detail at the planning and zoning meeting about how it will work, but certainly everyone is always invited to planning and zoning meetings. If you or someone you know made less than $60,000 last year, ABCD of Boston will prepare and file your taxes for free. This assistance is available at more than 30 sites around the greater Boston area and is available in 9 different languages. We encourage you to check either our social media or City of Boston website for more information on how to make an appointment or find a walk-in location. A quick reminder, and we will have the opportunity to speak through this in a little bit greater detail with Officer Santolo, who is here this evening, I see. But the East Boston Police Station location has officially opened in Eagle Square. I will give him the chance to speak more about it, but one of the things that the community would like to ask is how long we will maintain access in Maverick Square, and what are the plans for maintaining a presence once that space has closed. We are aware that there's been a number of people who've been asking questions about voting eligibility this evening. So we've received several questions through our email. And I believe in the old adage, if 2 people ask a question, there's at least 10 people who are wanting more information. So just as a reminder, this is a voting meeting. After this meeting, you will, if you are eligible, you will receive an email through e-ballot for 2 votes, one for the Tall Ship Entertainment license and the other for 4 Haynes Street. This email will go to the email address that you use to register for the meetings. If you do not see the email this Wednesday after approximately 7 p.m., the first thing I recommend you do is check your spam folder. 90% of people check the spam folder and find it. After that time, if you do not find a ballot and you believe that you're eligible to vote, please email us at board@jeffreyspoint.org. In order to be eligible to vote, you must either A, be in a butter to the project, meaning you live within a 300-foot radius of the project address and be present at the meeting this evening, or reside within the JPNA boundaries, anywhere within the JPNA boundaries, be present at this meeting this evening, and have attended one prior meeting or event in the past 3 months. The December holiday gathering did count. So if you were able to attend that, you would still be eligible to vote this evening. If you have questions about this, you are welcome to email us at jeffreyspoint.org. You're also welcome to read these. You're welcome to read these specifically if you'd like to reference them on our website at www.jeffreyspoint.org. I did see that someone just let us know that they're there with their partner. Just a reminder that it is 1 email address, 1 vote. So if 2 people are present that are like watching the meeting together, I encourage you to have one of you log in using your email through another machine so that they can be registered as a participant if you wish to be able to vote separately. So just a clarification, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. We're happy to answer, but that has come up in the past where a number of people very reasonably wish to watch the meeting together, but then because you don't log in with a separate email, it doesn't tag you as being present and therefore doesn't mark you as being eligible. So technology is great, but it's not perfect. We will continue to work on it. Moving forward, we're going to move on to just a reminder, pardon me, quick announcement. Nathalia Benitez-Perez, who is our mayor's liaison representative, was planning on being here this evening, but unfortunately she's unavailable. So after the police, we will move forward to our next agenda item. But I will turn this over to Officer Santolo. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Take it away.
Thank you, Margaret. I'm joined tonight with Captain Bickerton here. So if we have any questions, which we haven't had in 8 months for the captain, be more than happy to answer them. So please excuse my voice tonight. I coached 5 youth basketball games over the weekend. You know, yeah, one of my kids, nobody else's kids. So we started on February 3rd, 43 Carter Street. We had a fire. 8 people and 3 pets were displaced. All 8 had a place to stay with either a relative or friend. We do offer services where the city and the organization, they Red Cross puts them up in a hotel. Didn't need it. We sent our van down there for a warming station, but they all had a place to stay. Are they back in? They're not back in, right?
No.
No. Okay. So on 131 to Jacoby Road, a victim who lives in the apartment building was approached by 2 unknown males in the stairwell. Words were exchanged, physical altercation ensued. Neighbors started coming out to see what was going on. Suspects fled. We have a lot of vandalism going on. East Boston Stadium, the gazebo was tagged. MS-13 and the 18th Street gangs have been tagging over there. In the recent weeks, officers have noticed an increase in gang-related graffiti. If anybody sees it, the caboose or anywhere else, 311 graffiti busters, or if you feel comfortable calling my office, we can do it for you. Okay, this didn't happen in the Point area, but I think this information is worth sharing. On the 30th of January, 121 Bennington, the female victim was approached by unknown male and female. The victim stated they were working as a team. Showed her a bag of jewelry. Victim willingly walked with the suspects to her home to get $500. Gave them $500, and as you can imagine, she got a bag of rocks in return. That brings me back to the frauds that have been repeated for the past 3 years at every meeting. They're down a bit, but they're still ongoing. So, again, if someone calls you and I've kidnapped your nephew, call your nephew. He's probably safe. We have an uptick in domestic violence. If you know anybody in a toxic relationship, talk to them. Or if you're in one yourself, take a walk. It's usually will solve everything. It's usually the case. We're not immune to it. I've argued with my spouse. I've taken a walk. I've come back and I don't even know what we argued about. Seniors, we're having an issue with 2 or 3 couple up at the Heights, but a couple in your area. They have dementia and Alzheimer's. If you see a senior that looks lost or doesn't have enough clothing on, if it's 15 degrees out and has a shirt and a hat on, give us a call. We'll come check it out. Maybe there's somebody that took off from their home or eloped from the hospital. The question about Maverick Square, very short staffed, but the captain does have a permanent walking beat as well as a service unit down there. If anything else goes wrong, 911, we have about 6 more units just a call away. We're really short staffed still. We had an incident at the high school today. Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, so we had an incident today at the high school, commonly referred to as swatting. I don't know if anyone had seen the update in the news today, but what had happened is District 1 was called about Charlestown High School. We were called about East Boston, Amesbury, Brookfield, a number of different locations, Rhode Island also. A lot of those phone numbers originated through one of those VoIPs, and it was a standard message that was relayed to a lot of different police departments. Here in East Boston, we responded with our entire shift, and any detail officers that were on details in East Boston also responded, which gave us a complement of about 15 to 20 officers. We surrounded the school. We took up positions to make sure the students were safe. I contacted the principal. Seemed that everything was fine. We checked it out. We made sure everyone was safe. I posted a couple of units to stand by at East Boston High to make sure that dismissal went appropriately. And we've reported it through our Regional Intelligence Center to see if we can get a location on these phones. These are coming in more and more frequently, and they often originate either out of the country or in a different part of the country. And the swatting technique takes up a lot of resources throughout the city. But that's pretty much, everything was fine up there, but it was a swatting call.
Do we have any questions?
Do you have
Concern?
Do you have a timeline on the closure for the office, for the police station in Maverick Square?
So that's officially closed. That closed down on the 26th. The city takes back over the building. I'm unsure what they're going to do with the building. It needs extensive rehab. So I don't foresee anything going in there for quite some time. The court is still there. It's still fully operational, but no, it's going back over to the city. And as far as Maverick Square goes, like I said, I have a dedicated walking beat down there during the day. I'm limited in my staffing numbers, but we'll continue to keep a presence down in Maverick Square. As the months get a little bit warmer, I'm going to see if I can dedicate a bicycle unit down there like I did this past summer. This past summer, I had Hugo Alvarez. Many of you might know him. Down in Maverick Square on the bike. I like it because it's visible. He wears the high vis clothing, and he's dedicated down there for the remainder of the day. He's now in a service office assisting with the elderly, but I'm going to see if I can get another one to dedicate down there during the warmer months.
Perfect. So yeah, before we go ahead and start with some of the questions I have in the chat, I wanted to make sure that we addressed, everybody in here so we can make sure everybody has, accurate attendance here. So I've got two numbers that entered the chat. One is ending 6640. Do you think you can identify yourself?
Hello, sorry, it took a second to unmute from my phone. This is Caitlin Andriauskas. I'm having internet issues, so I might be cycling. It keeps cutting me out even on my phone,
Oh,
but
no.
I'll just keep, it's okay. I'll just keep coming back on as much as I can.
Okay, could you
no,
spell your last name?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. ANDRYAUSKAS.
Glad I asked.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Caitlin. I'll go ahead and
problem.
rename that, so I don't think I'll get the full name right, but I'll get it by the end of today.
Perfect, thank you.
Caitlin A, I'll remember the full one. All right, then there's also a number ending 4295. Anybody,
Or also 1483. If you've figured out how to unmute, we'll take your name as well.
mhm.
I spelled her name in the notes, by the way, if you need them later, Josh.
Okay.
Okay.
The 908 number.
Oh, actually, for the 908 number I've gotten is Caitlin's husband, Mike McMaster.
Okay. Okay, great. Let's go to, you want to go to questions in the chat?
Sure.
It's 7:20, so.
Okay, yep. So the question in the chat that I see so far is, are there any additional projects with the police department or the neighborhood in general for continuing to support the victims of any of the fires that have occurred over the past few months, especially the most recent one 2 weekends ago?
So as far as the fires go, we work in conjunction with Boston Fire and through the Red Cross, but our role is to make sure that we get people directly on site. We try to get them into a van or a bus. We'll bring them back to the community room here, and we hook them up with ONS, Neighborhood Services, which is Nathalia. And the city works to get housing set up or anything in the immediate need. And Red Cross deals with all the other services. So our primary objective is in the moment, right then and there, when we have a fire, being able to get somebody, instead of keeping somebody out in a 15-degree day, to get them back to a warm place and link them up with their resources. But once they go to their resources, we really don't have any further contact. They work it through insurance, they work it through housing and through neighborhood services.
Got it. Okay. I don't have any other questions at this time, so yeah, I think we can continue with the agenda. Thank you so
Okay.
much for your time.
Yes.
Perfect, thank
And I know we ask this every month, but I'm going to ask it again. If we could encourage you to put your contact information in the chat, we're happy to share it with people. We do have a significant number of people attending this evening, so certainly we would be happy to share out that information. So if people have any questions that they weren't comfortable sharing this evening or sharing publicly, we want to make sure that they have the chance to do that.
Okay, you got it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Have a great night.
Thank you. You as well.
Yeah.
I know that we had State Senator Lydia Edwards on the agenda. She is running a little bit late. So although we were hoping to have her next, we are going to move on with the agenda, which I need to move forward on my screen so I can tell you exactly what's next. So in that case, we will move forward to the tall ships. This is the Tall Ship Boston and this is a presentation in regards to an entertainment license. This is the second of 2 presentations. They were present last month as well. What's going to happen is they will do a presentation for approximately 5 minutes. Then we will have an open discussion where we will present questions to them. We encourage you to submit questions in the chat while they are presenting. You do not have to wait until the end. We will answer them. We are going to try to moderate the time because we do want to have State Senator Lydia Edwards have a reasonable amount of time. And then we also have for Haynes Street, which is coming up later on this evening. I believe that the tall ship is represented this evening by Charlie Lerner and someone else in his team. It might be Leslie, I think, I'm not sure. But Charlie will introduce them. We thank, and please submit questions through the chat. Thank you.
Hi, this is Charlie Lerner. I'm also here with attorney Leslie Hawkins. So we will be presenting the proposal for Navy Yard Hospitality Group with regards to the tall ship Boston. Leslie, did you want to?
Yes, that would be great. Thank you, Charlie. Leslie Delaney Hawkins with Prince LaBelle Ty here with Charlie Lerner and Navy Yard Hospitality Group. And Margaret, are you controlling the screen, the slides?
Actually, it's Susan who's handling the slide deck, but you can just say next slide and
Right.
she's on it.
Next slide, please. So just for a high level introduction, I know that folks here are very familiar with the tall ship and its operations. Since we commenced operations a few years ago, we have been operating off of a series of special one-day live and non-live entertainment licenses. And that was because at the time when we first commenced operations, we were operating on a very limited license in terms of occupying the pier. Since then, Charlie and his team have secured a longer term lease. So based on our conversations with all of the civic associations, the elected officials, and the licensing bodies in Boston, it just made more sense operationally and administratively for us to come forward and actually request an annual license. And that includes not just our background music and televisions, but the live entertainment programming that we've had since the start. But before we go through this, I just want to emphasize that in no way are we proposing any changes from what has been going on with the tall ship. This is simply codifying administratively what we've been doing. And with that, next slide, please. Again, I think everyone is familiar with the tall ship. If we could jump to the next slide. And the next slide, please. So this obviously shows what the existing layout of the tall ship is. And again, we're not looking to change anything.
Wait, Leslie, not to cut you off. This was the initial proposal that we had sent a few years ago when we were first talking about the tall ship. Here, this updated layout is the correct layout after being open for a few years. Sorry about that.
No, thank you, Charlie. But from an operational standpoint, we're not looking to change anything. We're not looking to change our hours of operation, our capacity, our staffing levels, what we've been doing. We're not looking to increase in any way the amount of entertainment that we've had. And if we could go to the next slide, please. Again, these are just renderings showing what the kind of vibe at the tall ship is. I think everyone on this call knows pretty well what the operational outfit is here. Next slide, please. Again, more of the same. I would actually say, Charlie, if you want to give a very brief overview of or operationally how you're monitoring sound and soliciting input on that, I think that would actually be probably more helpful than going through the slides at this point.
Yeah, so if we went back to the updated layout, there we go. So the tall ship, as you can see, it's a 245-foot vessel that is anchored to the side of Pier 1 in East Boston. It on the pier itself has been activated with food containers, retail containers and containers serving alcohol and non-alcoholic beverages. In the middle of this floor plan is a stage with a back wall of shipping containers for the back of the stage. That stage is there for live music, for movie nights. This year we're planning on activating a weekly G-rated movie series for children and families that'll happen in the beginning of the weeks on a screen that is mounted on the back of the stage. But right now, so what we're here for today is we are looking to go for a live entertainment license, which allows us to play live music as well as everything else that is there, TVs and background music. And we are looking to, keep it from applying on a weekly, monthly basis. So what we've been doing up till now, we have been checking decibel levels. City decibel levels are 70 dBs. We want you to be below 70. We're keeping it around 55. And we're trying to work with the neighborhood to make sure that everyone is satisfied with the volume levels coming off of this pier. But as Leslie said, we're here today to apply for a yearly license versus continually applying for weekly and monthly permits to operate this music and live entertainment.
And just, Charlie, thank you. Just to kind of expound upon that, again, there's no difference in operationally what we're requesting. It's simply administratively more efficient for everyone involved. It just means that instead of going and having this signed off, once a month, we have an annual license. And that also comes with obviously the regulatory authority of the board who oversees this license. And again, we're not looking to do anything differently than what we have been doing. And we always appreciate the opportunity to continue the conversation about how we can be better. But I think Charlie's done a really great job with his team of working with the community and with the stakeholders to ensure that we're a net positive. And, obviously we had a previous presentation, but we're here to answer any questions.
Excellent. Josh? Josh.
Sure. So I think there were a few comments that I wanted to make sure got addressed on the record. So give me a second. So, all right. So one that I do see is that somebody wants to highlight that the tall ship was approved for a 5-year liquor license without any community input or meeting.
I would just respectfully submit, we're happy to talk to anyone about process, but that's not the case. The tall ship has an existing liquor license that it went through a full community process. It has recently extended its legal right to occupy the premise with Massport by a certain number of years, but we're happy to talk about that, and I'll put my information in the chat. But all of just like tonight that we're here to talk about the entertainment, the liquor license was fully vetted as well.
Can we just also confirm that the liquor license does not have a 5-year life? That's this current lease. The liquor license right now is permanently on that pier, or it's a permanent liquor license for the LLC. It's not a shelf life with a time period.
Correct.
Gotcha. I also did forget, and I do apologize, that there were 2 abutters for this who could speak openly. I don't know if either of them have questions. I apologize. We have Karen Padier and Susan Huang. So probably before I go through any other questions, wanted to make sure they could speak out if they have anything. Okay, Karen doesn't have anything. Don't know if you have anything, Susan. Okay. All right, I'll keep going. So yeah, so I think the other one, another comment was that the tall ship encourages people to call them directly without contacting the police. If you do this, none of these issues will. It's not
I,
didn't get the chat. Oh, sorry.
Josh, I believe
yeah, I
this
got it.
same comment came up at our last meeting. That's absolutely not the case. Charlie and his
Oh.
team encourage everyone to call the tall ship with any questions or concerns. In no way, because we want to be responsive and we want to be proactively responding. In no way should anyone not call 311, or if there's any sort of safety concern in the neighborhood, you should obviously always call 911. I believe Charlie and his team have just said, we want you to communicate with us, but there's no one encouraging anyone to not reach out to any of the other agencies.
Okay, yeah, that they just wanted to make sure that you call the police as well, or any other agency, as well as trying to make that contact with you, just so there's other people aware of the issue. So yep, so then this is actually a question, is can you list out all of the types of events that this annual liquor license would cover? Would it be movies, live music, DJs, other items?
Sure. I'm going to ask Charlie to give kind of a high level overview, but I just want to be very clear on what we're here today for. The tall ship has an annual liquor license that is tied to this entity. What we're here today is for an annual live entertainment license as opposed to a series of one day. So this is specific to the entertainment license. I just don't want anybody to be confused about which board we're going to or what it is we're here to talk about. Charlie, do you mind giving us a high level overview of the kinds of events that you've been hosting? Oh, Charlie, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Let me break this down for a bit. So this past summer, to give everyone an idea, we had our own events, which were we did on average about 2 bands or live music per week. So we had Dalton and the Sheriffs play on the regular, and we also had Conscious Reggae, which was a reggae band that played regularly. We did not have any DJs that we brought in on our own. However, we did throw events for the Italian American Heritage Day, and we did throw events for Taste of Eastie, amongst a lot of other events that we threw for the neighborhoods. With those events, there was requests for a DJ, and there were requests for some other live music acts. So with that, we obliged and we pulled permits. And but what we're looking for is we're looking for 1 to 2 live bands per week, which is what would fall under this live entertainment license. When we have events, we did an event for Rob Gronkowski for it was a promotional event for his ice shaker. It's like a cup business. We had a DJ, not a DJ, not a musical DJ, but someone who is like on a microphone announcing Rob. That's live music. We did the family Halloween party on the pier. We did the party for Oktoberfest. Oktoberfest, we had a group of guys come out that were fitting for an Oktoberfest event. With all of this, you need live entertainment. And what we've been doing is for every event that we have, we then apply for the event. If we don't know the event's going to happen, like for right now, we did it Taste of EC last year. We're in the process of working to do Taste of EC again.
So Charlie, in the interest of time, the question just was for all types of events. So the answer would be live music, including bands, movies, and DJs.
Yeah, and
movies, yes, correct.
Movies, yes. So in Boston, just to be clear, anything other than a television screen and background music is live entertainment. So this isn't for, this isn't into a nightclub or anything like that. This is simply for kind of, as Charlie mentioned, live music, amplified and non-amplified, television screens, concerts. And again, all of the live entertainment is shut down by Charlie 10 p.m.
We like to shut it down by the time it's getting dark, so before 10 p.m.
Even earlier.
Okay, can we move to the next question? Because I gotta move you
Yes.
on in just a minute.
Yes,
So,
yep,
yes.
Josh?
So yeah, so next one is, does this administrative change make it easier to increase programming in the future without neighborhood approval?
No, it's already, it's pretty easy right now. This is just making it, the answer is no.
Yeah.
I'll try to be quick. I'll try to be quick with the answers.
And Charlie is
Um,
correct.
Yeah, yep, yeah, I think that answers it. Yeah, so I think one resident is complaining that they noticed noise more after the closing of the season. So they were wondering if you continue to measure even off season.
Say that question again.
Sorry, yeah. So one resident noticed more noise after the season was over, and they were wondering if you continue to measure noise in the
Well,
off season.
we don't measure noise in the off season, but that's because there's nobody on the property doing anything.
Yeah. So the noise would be completely unrelated to the tall ship operation.
Got it. All right. So then another person said that the biggest continual issue is the influx of people coming into our neighborhood and parking. Can you summarize what you're doing to encourage people not to drive and what you're doing to control guest behavior after they leave?
Yeah, so we did hire a consulting firm to work with traffic. So it was a consulting firm that based on traffic. We did put up signage around the neighborhood. If you notice, you're going to see some one-way directions for anyone visiting the tall ship, not for residents, for anyone that's visiting the tall ship. We are working on extending parking areas in the area so that we can direct people to some other parking spaces and parking lots. And we do have our complimentary water shuttle service that we push everybody on, that runs around the entire harbor and gives people complimentary water shuttle rides between the different neighborhoods in the harbor. That is what we're doing with regards to traffic mitigation and parking in people's spots. We do not want that at all. With regards to monitoring when people leave, last year we've been open 2 seasons. Season 1, we had a lot of complaints. We were working really hard with police details and with our own security staff to monitor people's volume as they spoke when they were leaving in large groups of people, which is also one of the reasons we closed at 11 o'clock. This past year, we didn't have, we had less than 3 complaints for the whole summer season with regards to noise as it was leaving after, at closing time. So once again, I encourage anyone, if there are issues and you live in the neighborhood, please reach out to 311, 911, if it's an emergency, or directly to us, because we only focus, we're always focused on it, but if we're getting notified that there are issues, we're more focused on it than in that direction.
Okay, how
yeah.
many more questions do we have? I'll give you like 3 more minutes. So we'll make a light.
Okay. So, yep. So another question that came up was, are there any plans on playing football game watch parties with the large LED screen?
Yes, the LED screen will be playing sporting events. The LED screen is nothing more than one of our other TVs. So everything that's on the TVs that you would normally see on our TVs, which is usually sports, is going to be on that LED screen.
Got it.
Just to clarify, I just want to be clear when Charlie says that, because I know there've been a couple of questions, the LED screen does not rise to the level of signage under the zoning code. I know there were a couple of emails about that. So we just want to be very clear, because we ran that down to make sure we were compliant. The LED screen is simply just a large TV.
Got it. And then somebody wants you to clarify your question about directing parking, because there's not a lot of more available off that pier.
So we're working with, so we have the other half of the pier, which is what we were hoping to put a lot of parking on. One of the, there's two issues with that. One is we need approval from the Conservation Commission, and we need approval from the Department of Environmental Protection under the Chapter 91 Act. So right now we're actively engaging with both groups to discuss additional parking on the other side of the pier. And that's where we're at right now.
Got it. And there was somebody who wanted to add that they had heard noise in October relating to the previous question.
October, we are open for business. We shut down on November 1st.
Okay, thank you. And I think just one other person wanted to make the comment, do people not understand this is purely an admin paperwork change? Literally nothing else is proposed or changing. Yep, so, and then from Karen, who actually can speak out and say this one, if she wants to, sorry. When do you plan to open this spring?
We're planning to open on May 1st. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
There we go.
As a reminder, this is the second of 2 meetings. Because this is a licensure, this is a 2-meeting process. So this is the second presentation, and the vote will be included in the email that you receive, which would also include the 4 Haynes Street presentation, which we are going to move on to. Charlie and Leslie, can I encourage you to put your contact information in the chat so that we can share it with everyone who is present here this evening in case they have additional questions or concerns in which to reach out to you directly?
Yes, of course.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to 4 Haynes Street, which is our next presentation. 4 Haynes Street has attended 3 planning and zoning meetings, and the proposal is to combine 2 existing lots to create 1 new lot, which would be considered 4 Haynes Street, and erect a new building with construction, which would include 4 units and 3 parking spaces. The developer is Peter Ryan and Thomas Walsh. They are represented this evening by Drago and Toscano LLP, and I see Jeff Drago is here and has turned on his camera, so I'm assuming it's him. And the architect this evening is GCD Architects. As a reminder, for people who have not attended previously, we will have the presentation. They will have about 5 to 7 minutes. Josh will read out the list of abutters. Abutters are welcome to raise their hands, and we will call on them to speak out loud. Everyone else is asked to submit your questions through the chat. You do not have to wait to the end of the presentation. You are welcome to submit things while Jeff Drago is presenting. And we will try to maintain as close to time as possible, depending upon what time we are joined by State Senator Lydia Edwards. Jeff, take it away.
Great. Thanks, Margaret. And thanks, everyone, for having us back. Again, Jeff Drago with Drago and Toscano, representing Tom Walsh and Peter Ryan, who are also on the call for a project at 4 Haynes. And then Adam Glassman is our architect, who you've seen before. What you're looking at in this slide is a rendering of the proposed building, which is to combine 2 existing lots and to create 1 new 1,800 square foot lot, which would be known as 4 Haynes. Right now, this is a taxable city parcel that we work diligently with our direct abutters and the Planning and Zoning Committee to come up with the design that you see tonight. This proposal would also have 3 parking spaces associated with it as well. I just want to point out before we go on that in our talks over the period of months with our neighbors, as well as the Planning and Zoning Subcommittee, we were able to come up with a project that, 1, has really changed the design that folks wanted to see. You can see this brick facade. You can see the change in the pitched roof line and the windows sort of to mirror the house to the right of us. That was all the work that we did with our direct abutters. So I know many of are here and you'll hear from. We also had a number of commitments as part of this project. One was a thorough construction management plan that that the owners signed to, and that one is going to address things like hours of operation for construction, cleanliness of the site, following permit guidelines, and so on, and insurance, and all the things that come up during construction or could potentially come up. We also tried to work with neighbors and listen to some of the issues. So one we heard was parking, and in doing so, one, I want to point out we do have 3 full parking spaces that go along with this project. 2, we were asked if we would give our address as well as the 2 buildings that the owners own next door at 810 to the city to restrict resident parking, and we did agree to it. Again, that's a newer program, and the details are still being fleshed out, but immediately the developers agreed. They also said they would work with neighbors to find alternative parking areas across the street at the piers and Tall Ship to off-season to find additional spaces to lease or rent. They also agreed that the buildings to the right will remain exactly how they are. We're not coming back for variances to go up or back. Those buildings will remain as 2-family houses with the existing bedroom counts. Just wanted to point that out because it was a lot of communal work went into the project that you're going to see tonight and working with our neighbors. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Again, that's our team. Next slide. Again, this is just the proposal. This is, as I had mentioned, to combine the lots. There are 2 existing lots on there now to erect the new residential building, which would house 4 residential units. And it's a mix, 2 or 3 beds, 2 or studios, and 3 parking spaces at the ground level. This particular zoning sub-district is a 3F2000 and our lot size is 1,800 square feet. Next slide, please. This is just the BPDA map, so you can see where our 2 lots meet, and it's right one in from the corner where they begin. Next slide, please. This is just an aerial view for context of the surrounding area. I think we can go on to the next slide, which is closer view. And what you see here, there's the parcel, and to the left of us on the corner, we're one in. So right now that's the gated area, just so folks can see it. And you can start to see most of the buildings on that side after the ones that we own are that 4-story height and level. And that's where we were going with this as well, to get us a number of units that make the project viable, but also to conform with that particular area in height and massing. Next slide, please. And this is a really good view. If you can see some of the buildingscape along that side, and even in the back of us, they go up to 5 levels or head houses that you can see, bringing up sort of the context, so you have an idea of where we were going with this. And you know, many of the new buildings at least have some parking, but our entire first floor will be dedicated to our parking and storage area, which we'll show you in bike room when we get into this a little bit. And right now that area is hot top, so there will be green space in the back in our 8-foot setback in the rear, which right now that's all just hot top on that parcel. Next slide, please. This is just our zoning analysis sheet. So obviously this project will require zoning relief in some areas. So use would be one of them, going from a 3 to a 4. Additional lot area per dwelling unit would require relief, as well as FAR going to a 2.3. We did try to really keep the height as low as we could, but also provide the parking and have enough headroom that we could put our mechanicals and you know, have enough space for those folks that would be living there. But we are at 40 feet, 35 is the height limit, and 3 stories. But as I showed you, there's so much context in the back and to the right of 4-story buildings in that area. Also, open space relief. We do have 1,088 square feet, and we are also we're proposing 2 exclusive roof decks accessed on the top through hatch to try to increase that as well. Our rear yard, we're at 8, and 12 and 5 inches would be required. And then we do still have a parking violation, even though we do have 3 spaces. Just to point out, obviously, all of the agreements that we had said we would work on just to try to accommodate. We also have the bike room to try to encourage other modes of transportation, and we are close to the T. Next slide, please. This is just our proposed site plan, so you can see the 2 parcels, similarly sized parcels as you go up and down the street that we're combining. Next slide, please. Now we get into our floor plan, so you can see we do have an enclosed garage access way, and so that would also have our main entrance to the building. There would be a lift, accessible lift to go up to the 2nd floor for our housing, but this would house the 3 interior parking spaces. Those are full size spaces that would have a bike rack and a trash area as well. So all of our trash would be housed inside the building, as well as storage and bike rack area. Next slide, please. Then we go up to our living area. So the first 2 units on the 2nd floor are 543 square foot studio units. Those also have a rear deck and back, and those have living room, kitchen, and bathroom. So those are very similar designs. Next slide, please. And then we go up, we have 2 bi-level units. So even though we had 2 studios, we also wanted to create family housing as well. So these are our larger units. These are 1,281 and 1,297 square feet respectively. And these are housed on the 3rd and 4th floor. So on the 3rd, we have our kitchen, living area, reading nook area, and a half bath. Same on the unit 4, except unit 4 also has a rear deck. And then we go up, if you can go to the next slide. The 4th floor houses the bedroom. So each of these units would have 3 bedrooms and 2 baths on the upper level. And if we can go to the next slide, please. And these 2 units would also house the roof decks. So each one of these roof decks is 200 square feet, and just gives a little extra space for those top units to have some additional outside space. And those would be accessed by hatch. Next slide, please. Now we just get into our elevation. So our front and our right side elevations. And you can see that's where our front driveway access is, as well as our front entrance to the building. Next slide, please. And then this is our proposed rear and left side elevation. So you can see in the back, we have the 2 rear decks, and you can see where our roof decks fall on top. And you can see how we cut this in along the top to change the cornice lines, and as we worked with our neighbors to have a different style. We're going to show you what the contrast of where we started and where we come from in a few slides. Next slide, please. And these are just some perspectives that Adam put together. So just in context, you can see the right and left side of the building, and then those other buildings around us. Next slide, great. And then this is more of an aerial view perspective, so you can see the front and the rear of the property, and then some of the other buildings as you start to go down the street. Next slide. So this was our previous rendering before we started working with neighbors. And if we go to the next slide, you can see the contrast in the design of the buildings, and this is our final result. Next slide, please. And again, this is looking at it from the side. So this is our previous rendering. And if you go to the next slide, you now see our most updated rendering. I don't know if that's it. If you go to the next slide, maybe it. Great. And appreciate your time. We can answer any questions that folks may have. Thank you. Thanks, Josh.
Okay. I want to go ahead and just give out all the names of the abutters. And I will go ahead and let one speak first, but then afterwards we'll just kind of go in the order of everybody who responded. So those are Caitlin Wallace, Steve Holt, Jen Green, Jeff Gam, Liam Fraturo, Brian Williamson, Carrie Green, Lee Williamson, Elikan Mohammed, Jim McBride, Chris Morn, Austin Dawson, Nick Baker, Stephen Rodas, Brian Vogel, Annabeth Moyer-Bell, and Matthew Pollock. Steve Holt wanted to speak first, so I'll go ahead and let him unmute.
I'll just say, we're not gonna, if all those people who are people who want to speak, I'm gonna tell you right now, we are probably not gonna get through everyone. So please try to keep your question as succinct as possible. And Jeff, if you could keep your answer as succinct as humanly possible, so we can get through as many people as we can, that would be great. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks so much to the board and to Jeff and Thomas and Peter as well. I was going to go through a detailed timeline of our process, multi-month process, working with the developers on this, but I think in the interest of time, I'll just sort of summarize it to say, we heard about first saw the project for the first time at the October general meeting. I have to say our first impressions were not great. It was out of place, felt out of place on the street, felt out of place compared to the other architecture. Prior to the November P&Z meeting, the developer did reach out to us. We finally made contact with the developer after the November P&Z meeting. And that was with a small group of direct abutters and I sort of served as the representative, reaching out on behalf of people who were directly surrounding this property. And we did offer on November 11th some pretty detailed design feedback. Thank you to Jen Green for offering her expertise in that area. Almost all of which was accepted, or I would say the majority of the main kind of tenets, the brick facade, the dormers, the recessed main entry being the most notable. It's now a very similar building to what is across the street at 7 to 11 Haynes. Around that same time, we submitted a construction plan that was, again, 2 pages long, detailing how we would interact with the developer and construction during the construction period, providing a direct line of communication during that time for any problems, for any feedback. And also providing neighbors with protections should those plans change after these votes, after the zoning board approval, and that those would also need to come back to abutters. All of that was considered and signed without question that was signed and executed in January. And again, just sort of skipping forward here to our final few requests here, as Jeff mentioned, on February 12th, the developers agreed to participate in the parking restriction program voluntarily, which would limit or restrict the cars that could receive street parking stickers that are who live in those buildings, since that was a concern of several abutters. Yeah, again, they offered to.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Do you have any questions? There's so many people who want to, put their.
Yeah, no problem. I just want to say at this point, given the way the process has gone, I'm prepared to support this project as it is currently drawn up.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Thank you for the background. I know that there has been a a really positive amount of outside discussion outside of the meetings we've had. So I appreciate that you're able to give us some additional detail and background on that. Josh, you want to go to the next person?
Yep, so Jen Green wanted to clarify that regarding the rear setback and the height of the building per the proposal versus what you're doing for the variance, I think it's for 8 feet. She can unmute herself if she wants to explain further.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Jen Green.
Hi, Jen.
I just wanted to clarify, there was you had mentioned a setback in the rear of 8 feet and your plan actually says 10 feet, 2 inches.
Yeah, I think Adam, is that, I just want to make sure because we went through a couple iterations. Do you know if we're at 10 still?
Can we see the site plan? Or I'll try to look at it on my desktop. 1 minute.
Yeah, we can bring that slide back up. Thank you, Susan.
I know.
I don't think the site plan's on here. Or maybe it is, yeah.
Let's see, let's look at the setback plan. There should be one in the set.
Yeah, it is.
That could have been my error.
Yeah. Oh, hold on. Why don't move on to another question? In the meantime, I'll look this up on my end.
Okay.
Okay, Jen, we'll come back to you. Next person, Josh.
Okay, are there any other abutters who want to speak at this time? I don't see anybody else, so I'm gonna go ahead and move to the next question. This person saying, I'm happy to hear that the developers are willing to exclude residents from street parking and support us finding alternatives to overnight parking at Jeffrey's Point, given that it isn't clear whether the street parking is enforceable. And the support for finding alternative overnight parking in the neighborhood has not been clarified. I would love to continue the conversation before offering my support. For that reason, I'm voting no tonight. However, I do think we are 85% there and hope we can find a solution that works for the neighborhood and the builder. If we do, I will help circulate the agreement so other neighbors can choose to support it if it works for them.
Jeff, can I step in here and clarify just one thing? So I think I can shed a little light on the subject here. This development, the proposal that what would be written into either condo or rental docs, that someone who lived at that address would be ineligible to get a resident parking sticker. This is a new development. I believe the first time it happened was in 2017. It is starting to become more popular, especially around transit-oriented development or development that happens within a minimal distance to public transportation, which I believe this would qualify as. It is something that can be written into both condo and rental docs. For full transparency, there is a lawsuit that's going on, I believe in South Boston, for people who purchase, I believe they're condo owners who purchased a unit and are now saying that that is unenforceable. So if that does change in the future, that is not this developer's fault. That is certainly out of their hands, but it is certainly an excellence. And that is not to say that once it's written in that the state legislature won't step in after, if the lawsuit goes through and they get, the rules get approved. That's not to say the legislature won't step in, because this is a great way to actually kind of maximize and encourage development around transit oriented development. But that is not his fault if that is unenforceable. I just want to clarify that. Did you want to, I know I cut you off, Jeff, and I apologize.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, no.
I didn't know if you had any additional comments. I just wanted to clarify that what's your fault and what's not your fault.
Sure. And I think, and I appreciate the comments and about parking, and it's, even if that program ended for some reason, we have a variety of different ways we were trying to curb this. 1, dedicated bike room inside. 2, the parking restriction. 3, trying to encourage by being near the T station. Having 3 full-size spaces with plenty of turn radius. I think proactively, we're really, and then looking for off-site parking, which we will actively do. We're going to be there a while. Tom lives right in Jeffrey's Point, so he's a neighbor, one of the developers. So we will be there through this whole process. So thanks.
I apologize. I don't know if you can hear me. I'm not in the butter. Can you guys hear me okay?
Jess?
Yeah, sorry. I'm not in the butter, so I don't know if I'm allowed to speak. But like, are we?
Can we encourage you to submit your question through the chat,
Yep,
Jess?
totally. Yep.
Yeah,
Like I
that'd
said,
be
in the chat,
better.
no problem.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you. And in the meantime, Adam, did you find the answer to the
I
question asked
did.
earlier?
The building itself is about 10 feet from the lot line. The porches on the back are about 25 inches from the lot line.
So that's, yeah. So thank you, Adam. So the building itself is 10. It's just we have those exterior porches that go back further. But those
So
are
just-
open air.
So just to clarify, so you're currently 20% over your rear setback requirement.
If you're counting the porches, correct.
Okay, and then you'd be 15% over on your height restriction as well before the roof decks.
Correct, yes. And there's no head houses in the building, so it's just open air decks.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so going back to questions, I
Josh,
take
did
this
you
question
freeze?
you will, but
Oh, there you are.
are the developers willing to keep the existing building naturally affordable housing?
That unfortunately we cannot do. So this is, and again, these gentlemen aren't going anywhere. They're looking to develop other projects, but this just is not enough units. The numbers are tight, especially after the round of changes in design to restrict that. So unfortunately, no.
Next one is
Can
pretty
I
much,
actually-
go
I just
ahead.
want to, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interject. This is, anybody who comes here normally knows I normally keep my mouth shut because this is about what abutters want and about what residents want. But just as a point of kind of education, when you include parking in a development, especially this kind of parking where a significant part of the building is going to be cantilevered up, you are significantly increasing the costs of development itself. And you are almost 100% guaranteeing that it is not possible to include affordable housing unless it's a significant number of units. One Everett Street is an example of that. It's a significant number of units, so it is possible to include there. But in many instances, and we have seen this many times in Jeffrey's Point, it becomes a question of, do we want off-street parking? At which point is a more expensive construction, and therefore these are more likely going to be luxury units because it includes parking. Or do we want to not include parking and then have the opportunity for more affordable housing? So it's a horrible choice, but it's unfortunately one we have. And Josh, I'll turn it back to you and shut up.
Well, yeah, so yeah, I think we're gonna make it through, but yeah, that there's still a lot of questions. Specifically, Brian and Caitlin have their hands raised and are direct abutters, so go ahead, Brian.
Thank you for the time. I just wanted to throw them, it's a parallel to what Steve was saying earlier, but we want to throw our support behind this project. They've done a lot of things that they've changed the design of the building. We've actually worked with them in the past on number 10. We've worked through issues and problems before, and they've been great neighbors of ours. And so, we're going to vote in favor of this project. That's all I have to say.
You.
Go ahead, Caitlin.
Hi there. So I want to just echo what a lot of the other direct abutters communicated. Steve and Brian, we were very much appreciative of how much the developers have worked with this group to inch us closer to the line. I have two questions. So one, I just want to clarify, because I know I'm back and forth over emails in the small abutter group. Your group is committed to not changing the height, the setbacks, anything on 8 and 10. Is that correct?
That's correct, Caitlin. The bedroom count, everything that's there now would remain. It would just be like renovation, stuff like that. Nothing would change.
Okay.
Zoning relief, no building up.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. And then I just did want to kind of clarify around what Jen asked is in terms of the decks on the back and the roof decks on the front, which go sort of above and beyond the variances that you're already requesting. And I just wanted to understand what your guys' thoughts are at this current time in terms of shrinking those at all, or removing the roof decks, just keeping it at, we're already going back pretty far. We're already going up pretty far, 4 stories. What's the temperature on that?
Again, I mean, the neither one had really come up as an issue because they are open air decks. So our thought was to give a little bit of extra space. Again, the whole street, the whole area is kind of tight quarters. So to give some outdoor space to the residents of that building, where it's, even though it goes out, 25 inches or 24 inches in the back, an open air deck, it's not like a wall, it's just literally open aired, so folks could sit out there and have a little additional space. And then the roof decks, where we kind of situated them, they're about 200 square feet, so they're really not large decks. There's no head houses on them, so it'll only be accessed by hatch. And again, one, marketability, but 2, just for use and some space up there to relax or get away, and to increase open space was our thought. I guess and we had an issue with it before.
Yeah, no, I guess it's I wouldn't say that it's not a showstopper. I think, again, want to reiterate, we're very appreciative of how much you've worked with us. Just to explain my rationale on the roof deck specifically is a noise thing, right? To be really clear, it's a noise concern. Just given, whether it's Tall Ship and Cunard, right? So that's the motivation there.
Yeah, and just to point out, these are small decks and they're exclusive. So this would not be like access where you could fit, these are communal roof decks. That's why we did exclusive, and they're only accessed by those units. And looking in the aerial view, there's quite a few roof decks there. I don't know the situation with all of them, but all right, the idea that the roof decks would actually, would just be almost more important, because without it, you're really limiting those top floors to have any sort of private space to go out to.
Yep. Okay, this is helpful. Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thanks so much.
All right. All right, so that's the rest of the abutters. To kind of go back into questions here. So this is kind of a rhetorical question, and it's a lot of conversation in the back here. So if you want to try to answer it, you can, but please explain how a developer can possibly restrict street parking. The city gives out these permits, not developers. I mean, how is it enforced?
So the way the program is designed is that you give the addresses of the units and to the transportation department through this program, and then stickers would not be released, and then we would restrict them in our own documents, leases, condo docs as well. So now, again, as Margaret really emphasized and mentioned, that if someone was to challenge this legally, it's so new that we just don't know. And I know other areas have, but across the city, I have a lot of different projects from Hyde Park to Southie. This is something that is definitely happening. And folks are asking for this program for developers to willingly enlist their buildings in this program. So it is something that, and I've been at plenty of community meetings where the transportation department has come out and acknowledged that the program exists, but did say, legally, if something's challenged, we just don't know yet. But to me, it sounds encouraging because this is becoming so popular across the city. Again, I'm not the city official, so I can only give so much detail that we were asked to do this, and we are more than willing, and we will restrict it in our leases, and we will give those the addresses and units to the city. And I will go on record at the zoning board mentioning this as well.
Okay, thank you for saying that. Yeah, a lot of these comments are very much centered around this. There is one that I got a flyer this morning that says this project will add 6 cars to on-street parking. This seems like a massive overestimate. According to a study from MAPC, for Haynes would add at most -1 car. I'm voting yes for this transit-oriented development.
Yeah, that's great. And if I could just point out, Josh, that so we flyered based on the requirements that Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association has. There was another flyer. It was anonymous. There was not a name on it. I don't know the details, but I think it wasn't correct on some of the voting information. I don't know if anyone's seen it, but I just want to point that was not from us.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's just best for me to go through each one as they come. So yeah, somebody commented that the registration happened at the Atelier 505 in the South End in 2003 and is still being enforced. So about parking registrations, yeah, like resolution. So there's evidence for that. Another person said, I'm prepared to vote in favor of the development. There's a housing crisis in Boston, which leads to high rent prices. Developing housing in a walkable and bikeable area as a T-stop nearby is so crucial, creating more affordable housing. Fear that parking will be hard to find shouldn't be the only reason to refuse adding housing in such a great place like Eastie. They even guarantee that everyone in the development will need parking. Yep. And then please clarify that there is no stepped in entry, merely a recessed front door.
Adam, do you want to handle that one?
Sure. Can we? Yeah, it has to be a roll-in entry to meet the accessibility requirements.
Okay. Austin Dawson has his hand up, so I'll let him speak.
Yeah, thanks, Joshua. I just wanted to thank Margaret for, and some other folks for their comments about the costly impact of required parking minimums, and just given the increasing housing costs in East Boston and Jeffrey's points in particular, parking is becoming a costly part of providing that housing, and something that housing in particular is something that I believe is a right. So I just caution as more parking also tends to create more cars, more congestion, and larger headaches. And we live in a neighborhood, as far as I can tell, from the last BPDA figures, only about 40% or about 40% of folks or households in East Boston don't own a car. And so our planning standards and development should reflect that fact. And happy if neighbors know of any groups or other movements working towards that end to prioritize housing over parking, to make sure that people are housed, not cars. I would appreciate getting connected with those folks, and happy to share my email address in the chat if need be. But with respect to this for Haynes as an abutter, my vote will be a yes for more housing, a yes for less cars, and a yes to welcome new neighbors to a wonderful neighborhood.
Thank you.
All right, so the okay, so other comment is, does Austin believe current East Boston residents should no longer be allowed to park here? So, yep. So another one is, as an abutter, construction has been slow, noisy, disruptive, and even damaging to our property. Why is this project going to be different for current neighbors? And why is it necessary in an already overpopulated neighborhood?
Yeah, I mean, so one thing we did in working with our abutters is to put together that construction management plan that addresses things like time of construction, how to handle deliveries, police details, hours of operation, all of that kind of stuff was in that plan. So that will be restricted and memorialized in writing, which it was. And then again, there is, beat a dead horse, but there's a housing crisis, there's a housing need. This is an empty city parcel. That's all hot top, and we figured it was a good site to redevelop.
Okay, and I did want to note, I did discuss that we are going to upload the construction management plan to be able for everybody to understand or like document what was agreed on. So sending out somebody. Austin wants to share his email, so also providing that. Okay. Lee also raised her hand. She is in the butter. Yep.
Yes, thank you guys so much. I think Brian emphasized this, but the one thing I just do want to say about living through the renovation of 10 Haynes is that the developers were really incredibly accommodating. And I think it's really worth emphasizing that from the standpoint of they knocked on our door, they gave us their phone number whenever we had an issue related to anything in the street being blocked or any kind of challenges, which you could expect always happen during some kind of construction project. So no one likes it, but it's a fact of life, right? They were really lovely and kind and responsive, and that proceeded past construction, but also as sort of them dealing with tenants across the street as well, where if we ever had issues with our home being blocked or anything else happening on the street, they responded in a matter of minutes. And so I do think it's really worth emphasizing that they've been really good actors in the neighborhood for years, and I'm grateful for that. And as such, I will vote yes.
Thank you.
I just want to do a quick time check. It's 8:24. Some of the strongest feedback we get from people is they'd like us to keep to the 8:30 timeline. So it's 8:24. If you have any final questions, if you could put them in the chat, we will try to get through as many as possible, but we will wrap up at 8:30. Anything else in the chat, Josh?
There might be one person responding right now, but yeah, I think we are kind of caught up on the chat. It took a while, but
okay.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I will start doing the wrap-up announcements, and then if any final questions come in, we can address those as well. Just a reminder, we are using a program called eBallot to manage this voting process. If you are eligible to vote, you'll receive an email with a voting link no later than Wednesday, February 15th at 7 p.m. You may enter your vote anytime in the 48 hours after you receive the link, but it must be before Friday, February 17th at 7 p.m. No late votes are accepted. That includes board members because I've missed it once or twice myself. So again, that is February 17th that votes are due by in order to be counted. And I'm just checking the calendar right now to tell you what day this month the planning and zoning meeting will be. Is planning and zoning this Wednesday? Or is it the 22nd? I think it's the 22nd.
Yeah, I think it's his 22nd.
Yeah, okay. I'm going with the 22nd because I haven't seen the agenda come out yet. So the planning and zoning meeting for this week, for this month will be Wednesday, the 22nd. The agenda will be posted on our webpage at www.jeffreyspoint.org. 1 Everett Street will be on the agenda. They were moved from a vote this month so that they could come back one more time and then have a vote on the 13th of March. So if you are interested in that development, we encourage you to attend. As always, the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association is here to assist and support you. And if you have questions or concerns, we encourage you to contact any board member that you are comfortable with or email us directly at board@jeffreyspoint.org. Because we have a large number of people attending this evening, I do want to make one other announcement. This year, like every year, we will have an election. An election will be announced in April. Nominations will be opened in May, and then the vote will be in June. We believe that we will have at least one board opening this year, if not 2. So if you are interested in becoming a board member, if you're interested in becoming more involved, we encourage you to contact any board member that you are comfortable with or email us directly at board@jeffreyspoint.org. It is important that we keep all the seats filled so that we can support the community as best we can. We've built a pretty solid infrastructure, but many hands make light work. Let's just put it that way. And then I will just ask really quickly, Josh, do you have any more questions in the chat?
No, I do not.
Okay. In that case, I'm going to say it is 8:27 p.m. Thank you very much for joining this evening. I am so sorry that the Patriots were not in the Super Bowl, but hey, that Dunkin' commercial wasn't that bad. And with that, I declare this meeting over and we can turn off the recording. Have a good
Thank
night,
you so
everyone.